All right, heading into Culture Wars for Monday morning. Over the weekend, FIFA announced the venues for the 2025 expanded FIFA Club World Cup. And that brings up questions. A, like where it's going to be. B, it's another step towards it happening. And then C, does anyone really want this? There's been some FIFA and UEFA, public statements going back and forth of, do we want to do this? Don't we want to do this? Players have been speaking out against it. Most recently, Manchester City's Rodri saying that there might be a player strike if there's any more competitions added, and they just don't know if they would have enough in the tank to do another big tournament in the summer. So FIFA versus UEFA continues here.
Yeah. I will add that you mentioned Rodri and saying that there could be a player strike based on the number of fixtures that they're being asked to play at the top level. Jurrien Timber has also added his voice to the chorus there. So, continue to talk. And, of course, Timber just came back from a long-term knee injury for Arsenal. And he said, I agree with them. It's a big topic in the dressing rooms. I didn't play last season, so I'm just enjoying playing now, but I understand what they're saying. Now, this is interesting because I clearly the expanded Club World Cup is going to add to the burden of a lot of players. And it's because it's become an issue, this is going to be central. We talked about the in Major League Soccer who decided that they wanted to take their ball and leave the Open Cup or whatever they decided to do. Lots of people say, well, why are you doing Leagues Cup if you have an issue with the schedule congestion? Then there's the international tournaments, right? And it's not just the tournaments, it's also Nations League, which is meant to raise the stakes in every given international window. It's no longer a friendly. Maybe it's, you come in, you train with your teammates, you play a game. It's not really all that important. You're just kind of kicking it around. I mean, friendlies are sometimes intense, but very rarely do they make a player feel like they have to win that game. And the Nations League has changed that a bit. I think that's part of this. So it's not just how many games you're playing, it's how many games you're playing at your full effort levels. And then this thing. So, first of all, can we review what this is, Robert? So we showed the venues earlier in the show. That's one thing. This is the 2025 Club World Cup coming to the United States of America, mostly to be played on the East Coast. I think that's because I think there was a choice being made: East Coast for the Club World Cup, West Coast for Gold Cup, which is happening at the exact same time, right? So interesting.
Are you ready for a 11:30 kickoff between Panama and Jamaica?
Oh yeah, that's going to be brilliant. Where's that going to be? PayPal Park? You play that one at PayPal Park? I don't know the Gold Cup venues. So this is the breakdown for the Club World Cup. If you're wondering, 4 African teams, 4 Asian teams, 12 European teams, 4 CONCACAF teams, 1 team from Oceania. 6 teams from CONMEBOL in South America, and then 1 team from the host country, and we can even tell you who's qualified. It's a long list. I guess I don't know if I should do the whole list, but Real Madrid's in, City's in, Bayern Munich's in, PSG's in, Inter Milan is in, Benfica, Dortmund, Juventus, Madrid, Porto, Salzburg. From CONCACAF, Monterrey, Seattle Sounders, Club Leon, Pachuca. Those are your CONCACAF nations. I believe I don't know who's representing the United States as the host. Do we know that? I know
Seattle Sounders are involved.
Yeah, but they're in. So again, this is what we're kind of explaining. They're in as the CONCACAF Champions Cup winners from 2022. That's how they made the tournament. So they're not representing. They're not the host nation spot. They've qualified on their own merits. But it doesn't matter, right? So what I'm saying is, what we want to get to here is why this is happening, and what. Yeah, it says they over on FIFA.com. It says they haven't determined two spots. One is the host team, the host country's entry, and the other is the CONMEBOL Libertadores winner from 2024. So they're still playing that tournament. But Robert, this is 100% about FIFA and UEFA trying to grab as much of the money available out there in world football as they can, and fighting because they are having a battle, because this is a soccer wars scenario. They do not care. There's no consideration for the people involved, mainly the players, right? This is simply about UEFA has the Champions League and has always had the top level club competition on the planet. And they've even expanded it. Hey, we want more teams in the league phase, 36 teams, and we're changing the format and all these things. And then, you can argue whether it's fun or not, or whether these games will mean more or feel big and those kind of things. We're Champions League games coming up this week, getting ready for Champions League games tomorrow and Wednesday. But the bottom line is that UEFA is doing everything they can to make sure they hold on to their market share of having the biggest club competition on the planet. And FIFA is jealous of that. FIFA doesn't want UEFA to be able to say they have the biggest club competition on the planet. It doesn't matter that you and I and most people traditionally think of FIFA as the organizers of the World Cup or big tournaments like that, the Men's World Cup, the Women's World Cup, the Youth World Cups, those kind of things. FIFA says, well, we also sanction all the leagues. Why shouldn't we get a piece of what's going on? Why shouldn't we be able to organize our own tournament with the clubs and get a big chunk of money too? And that's what this is. The Club World Cup being expanded to this level, this ridiculous level that Gianni Infantino has decided we should do, is all about money. And it's all about trying to cut into what UEFA has. I mean, I don't know if Johnny himself would say, well, I'm trying to damage UEFA. That might not even be possible based on the strength of the Champions League. But 100% this is about money. And I don't know how to feel if I should be excited that something like this is coming to my country, because normally as an American soccer fan, Robert, that's how we would feel, or if I should be annoyed, angered, disappointed, disgusted by FIFA's behavior.
And it's also trying to capture market. I mean, the FIFA and UEFA eyes are about this big when they see the dollar signs in the United States with the growing interest in the game here stateside, and when they see those international friendlies where separate groups that aren't them are bringing over the international clubs to the United States, that's money that they're not getting. And they see that a lot of those games are drawing crowds. And so they're trying to capture as many dollars as they can. So like, oh, what can we make those bigger? More clubs, more games, more of everything, really. And let's try to capture all those dollars and all that goodwill as fast as we can. And kind of banking on the fact that the casual American fan probably won't know what this is doing to the larger scale soccer calendar.
Well, but Robert, I mean, I get that. You're probably right about that. And we're talking about friendlies. We're usually talking about some of the biggest clubs in the world, certainly clubs that have a lot of reach in America. But in this tournament, I mean, because FIFA has to dress this up as a World Cup and hey, we're doing this because it's important to determine a club champion of the world when nobody's asking for that. Al Ali of Egypt, Wydad of Morocco, El Tunis of Tunisia. I mean, the Mamelodi Sundowns. You know what
I do like the fact that we'll get to see and we get to learn about other clubs. Like I don't know much about those clubs, but that's almost just like a byproduct rather than the purpose.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess if you're going into this thinking it's sort of like the NCAA basketball tournament and you're going to learn about a team from the Suncoast Conference or whatever, like, okay, there's something to that. These games, I mean, there's going to be a group stage. I imagine there'll be a mix, obviously, based on coefficients or something, rankings of some type. But you're not going to get many people out to be watching Al Ain or Ain of the UAE. Sorry if I butchered that. I shouldn't chose that club. Why am I saying a club I can't say, Jason? Against I don't know, against Salzburg or somebody
in Nashville.
Who knows where in Nashville? Exactly. And I guess I just don't know who this is for. I don't know who it's for. I suppose you can say something like, we need to start it because you never know, or you can't build a fan base, or you can't build excitement, or you can't build history with something unless you start it. But this feels unnecessary.
Should this be something that the United States Soccer Federation should be pushing back against? Because again, it's another product that isn't an American soccer product.
What is? I'm sure U.S. Soccer is invested somehow in this competition. Although we'll come to a major point about where we are with this competition in a second. But I don't know that U.S. soccer has any sort of ability to push back against FIFA. And this goes around. I mean, U.S. soccer, I guess, has to sign off. But if FIFA says, "Hey, we're going to play this tournament. We want to do it in the United States. We just need you to sign here and sign here and sign here," U.S. soccer is going to be like, "Wait a second, we don't like this," and FIFA's going to say, "What? No, sorry, you have to like this, and also you're going to get paid, or also you're going to get a chunk." I don't know what that is.
Probably what you'll still get paid probably quiets any objections in the long term, right?
Probably. I mean, look, I do think that, it's really hard to imagine U.S. soccer saying no to something that could potentially draw interest to the game in America. That's their job. And even if you don't love this, even if you think it's not for anybody right now, they're gonna say, well, it's gonna help us grow the sport because all these big teams are gonna come to America and people are gonna want to watch them. Okay, sure. But by the way, speaking of people wanting to watch them, last time I checked, there's no TV partner for this yet, right?
Nope.
There's nobody signed up, and American companies. I mean, we don't even know where we can watch this in our own country on television, much less around the world. I mean, this is the thing that I think is most indicative of the lack of enthusiasm for this idea, and something that Gianni Infantino clearly missed. Nobody's chomping at the bit to sign a television rights deal with FIFA over this.
Yeah,
And
nothing.
last we heard,
there was some sort of a tender put out, and there was a deadline that's passed.
He called a bunch of people into a meeting and said, "Hey, you need to start bidding on this because we do business with you on other properties, and who knows what might happen with those other properties if you're not helping us out with the FIFA Club World Cup." I mean, again, everything is so thirsty and desperate from FIFA on this that it drenches the entire competition in this like, just failure before it's even begun, right? Doesn't it feel like this is something that is probably going to come and go, and we'll go, what just happened? What was that? I mean, can you imagine a Club World Cup final featuring, I don't know, Manchester City and somebody else that is at MetLife with 75,000 people? I guess it's possible.
This could be borderline what would you call it? Unprecedented if teams refused their invitations. Because I was just referencing a quote from Carlo Ancelotti back in June saying that Real Madrid, biggest club in the world, Champions League champions, may refuse or plan to refuse their bid. I don't know if there was discussions over the summer where they made him walk that back.
Sure.
It definitely speaks to the sentiment within, the actual soccer side of it. I was just thinking, like, the clubs in the Club World Cup, as it was in the past, you only really care about it if your team is in it. I never cared about it until Liverpool was in it and won it.
Sure.
And then so maybe if you invite 1.5 million teams, those individual fan bases will tune in to where you get to kind of raise all the levels and get an audience. But if teams like Real Madrid, like, you think if they decline their invitation, that would dent this hugely, and would they kind of like set the stage for a lot of other clubs to pull out?
Yeah, you're right. Ancelotti I think he was expressing frustration over fixture congestion, the lack of an off season for players. I mean, and this is a situation where, lots of players get pulled into international duty in the summer and don't get a ton of downtime. And now even the ones who don't have international obligations are being asked to play in a tournament. And that's the other thing about this, is that FIFA is going to demand that everybody take this seriously. Now, you can't make the players and make the coaches put their full effort into it, and I don't know how that's going to play out, right? Like, it'll definitely undermine the integrity, which is a hilarious thing to even say right now, but it'll definitely undermine the integrity of this competition if a Liverpool or a Real Madrid or somebody like that, Manchester City, bows out in the group stage or in the round of 16 or something, because they clearly do not care that much. Maybe Pep plays all the kids. I mean, this is preseason for us. We're warming up for the Premier League. We want to go win another title. Why am I going to put my best players on the field? And how is FIFA going to respond to that? I mean, they're setting the stage for something like that to happen a lot. And it seems as though they are just oblivious to this idea that there might not be a lot of enthusiasm, not just from fans and television companies, but from the actual players and coaches themselves. And I think you're right about Ancelotti being forced to back down from what he said, but I don't think you can police the enthusiasm, right? This is not there's no thought police element for FIFA here. And you're setting yourself up to be humiliated, honestly. If nobody comes to the games, and I'm not saying I want that, but if nobody goes to certain games, then that's a bad look. If nobody buys the television rights, that's a bad look. And if the players and the coaches don't put in full effort, that's a bad look.
Do you think there's any way that this doesn't happen? I mean, if they've walked or if they've made plans this far and they've obviously put a lot into this, but I mean, if they don't get the TV deal that they want, is it possible that they say, hey, let's push this out a couple of years?
Wow. I think probably FIFA's gone too far down the road to turn back at this point. I think this is going to happen next year. I just that whether or not it continues to happen, I think it is set for every 4 years or something. They're not doing this every summer, but it does. If it's really, 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 really bad the first time, whether it survives again, I don't know.
And you'd think that they've thought of the possibilities. I bet in some sort of a contract or some sort of in the invitation, I bet there probably would be a first team requirement, like X amount of first team regulars have to have this amount of
That
appearances and
seems
stuff like that.
that seems like a crazy thing to impose on clubs, considering the fixture demands, but possibly. Possibly. But then we're just going to have broken players, more and more broken players, and wonder why we're not watching the highest level of soccer anymore.
I blame COVID.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, everything's been messed up since then. No one's really gotten a break really since then, and adding more competitions only making it a little bit more complicated. So to answer your question, why is it a thing? I think it just comes down to money and power, right?
Money, money, money. It's always about money.
All right. I think we've warred enough with our culture for Monday morning.